This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know. Some rock star dads who started a show. So here's the next episode.
You know, again, if you guys, you know, you can just go to Shane's website. It's super easy. It's just Shane Cuthbert. I believe it's just Shane Cuthbert. Yeah, .com. So it's cuthbert.com. And you should go watch his interviews, and you should go hear the story that I'm talking about. Because your amazing story of overcoming adversity and turning a really hard life and probably some stupid shit that you did along the way into something positive, to make the world a better place, to make the world better for those around you. And what's that transition? Was it prison? Was it coming out of that just going, okay, this is the absolute bottom. I've got to do better.
Yeah, I definitely the prison was a part of it. Prison does not help people at all. You know, I do think that there are people that deserve to be there. Obviously, you have murderers and people that do, you know, horrible, terrible stuff. Mm-hmm. Actually, what happened with me is I was put into a cell with a guy, and this guy had already spent 10 years in prison as a rapist.
Yeah,
and I'm not old, but I'm still sort of a young kid. You know, I was about 24. Mm-hmm. Hadn't been to prison before. I wasn't. Yes, I'd got into trouble, but I wasn't a criminal. I wasn't someone that was in and out of prison my whole life. I wasn't someone that committed crimes for a job. You know, I just sort of happened to end up there because life just went that way. And got put into a cell with this guy, and man, he just started just making me his bitch, really, you know, over time, and just bashing me up. And I'd be asleep on a bottom bunk, and he'd just get down in the middle of the night and start bashing me up. And one night he raped me with a prison knife, a shiv. And man, it was about 2 weeks before I got out. And that was absolutely extreme for me. So then when I left prison, I was trying to deal with the trauma from my life, mm-hmm. the depression of not being able to make it, thinking, look, I'm going to be a rock star, and now it doesn't look like I am, to then having to deal with, okay, all of a sudden I've just experienced some of the most traumatic, I mean, I say some of the most traumatic stuff. What was definitely the most traumatic thing in my life. Man, I got out and I was homeless, living on the streets. I thankfully had a really good psychologist that really, really helped me. And he said, look, man, you are really intelligent. You got a lot of life experience. And he encouraged me to start helping others. And I couldn't even help myself at the time. So it was a process of, you know, day by day, and it is day by day, you know, it's okay. And I tried to do something positive each day, and I went to university, started studying psychology and learning about the mind. And then also at the same time, I was able to heal myself and understand what I had gone through. But, you know, when I say it nearly killed me, it nearly did. I mean, I was so suicidal for a very long time. But
also, since you told the story, it almost killed you literally because you didn't tell anybody, right? And so, if I'm not mistaken, you went to commissary. I don't know what they call it there, but like you went to go and get the things that you could buy for the week, and they saw you and they were like, something is wrong with this guy. We've got to send him to the infirmary. And you wouldn't tell them anything. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
in prison you can't
really, it could have killed you though. I mean, had you not gone to the doctor, I mean, that's, I mean, it's unfathomable. I mean, that's a hard word to say.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the horror stories that we hear, that's the deterrent from prison, really, is that you're going to go to prison, you're going to drop the soap, some guy's going to make you his bitch, right? I mean, so much so, and I'm not making light of this in any way, but I'm saying that's such a part of our our culture and the way that we understand prison and the way that we just sort of accept that that's the way that it is. That Bowling for Soup has a song called The Bitch Song, and we made it a video about being prison bitches. I mean, a funny look at that, but it's, as you said, there are people that are in there for rehabilitation and in there for this or this or this, and that are getting you're this 24-year-old kid who's, again, a DUI is a serious fucking offense, but Jesus Christ, you shouldn't be in there with a fucking murderer, especially one that knows the system and knows, this and that and that. So anyway, I don't want you to take anything away from how traumatic that was, and holy shit, what a survivor story. So I only interrupted there because I wanted the audience to know that he didn't do that to you, and all of a sudden you went to the hospital and blah blah blah. You stewed in it and suffered through that. Yeah, I mean,
he was in there on that occasion. He was there for the murder or the manslaughter, we call it. So it's an accidental murder of his 3-month-old child, his own. This guy was a bad guy. He will be out of prison in a year or two. He's done about 10 years, because I'm going back, I'm going back a few years now, and
right.
People like that really deserve to be there. And the way that the system is, they do just throw you in with guys like that, which I don't think that I deserved.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone deserves what I went through. But yeah, I couldn't tell anybody. I'm in there with this guy, and you're right. I couldn't tell the guards. If I told the guards, they wouldn't care, right. And the other prisoners would bash me up, or assault me for that, because I'd be a prison dog,
Yeah, we call it a snitch here, but
a snitch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was going to bed, and on the bottom bunk, he's above me, and I would turn and face the wall, so my back was facing outwards, thinking if he comes down to beat me up in the middle of the night, I've got my back turned, so I'm sort of in that defensive position. And having a sleep like that, and the fear, and I would try to stay awake as long as I could, knowing that would happen. Mm-hmm. There was nights where he would yell out to talk to me, or go, like, Shane. And if I didn't answer back, he would get down and he would beat me up, and answer me when I talk to you, sort of thing. And man, that was just so traumatic. And I had a broken leg at the time as well, right? So I had my leg in a cast. I was on crutches. I was already super vulnerable. And you're right. The guards one day said, "Hey, mate, we've got to take you to the hospital because you've got to get an X-ray on your leg. We want to know if we can take the cast off." And I said, "I can't go." They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm not allowed to go." They said, "We are the guards. We tell you what to do. Mm-hmm. You can't tell us what to do." And I went back to this guy, and because he was standing over me for every week we get our, food and stuff like that, and chocolate bars. And he was like, "Man, you're not going anywhere until I get my chocolate bars." And so I went back to the guards and I said, "Oh, no, I can't go." And then they said, "No, you have to go." And I've gone back to tell him, and just there in front of the guards, he did not care. He just started beating me up. And then the guards pulled me out and they said, "Look, what's what's going on? This guy's beating you up, whatever. And I said, nothing. I can't talk about it. It's just before they're taking me to the hospital because I'm leaving the prison, then they've got to do a strip search.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've taken my clothes off and I'm covered in cuts and bruises. And one of the guards just said to me, and he said it just in a real, man, you're having a hard time, aren't you? And then I just broke down. It was that for the first time in months, I felt like someone genuinely cared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There wasn't a lot he could do about it, but I could see that he was looking at me there, standing there naked, you know, covered in bruises, just vulnerable with a broken leg, on crutches, terrible stuff happened to me. And I could just tell in his eyes and his tone of voice, he was like, oh man, this kid's having a rough time. And I just broke down, you know.
This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know, some rock star dads who started a show. Until the next episode.